Hello everyone, my name is John Mark S. Haligani, and today we're going to be talking about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So before this report starts, I know every one of you is wondering, why are these cells called prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells? So the word prokaryotic came from the Greek word pro, which means before, and karyon, which means nut or kernel, while the word eukaryotic came from the Greek word yo, which means well or good, and karyon, which means nut or kernel. So, what is a prokaryotic cell? A prokaryotic cell is a type of cell that does not have true nucleus or membrane-bound organelles. Organisms within domains bacteria and archaea are based on the prokaryotic cells, while all other life forms are eukaryotic. However, organisms with prokaryotic cells are very abundant and make up much of Earth's biomass. So, if you look at the left side of this presentation, you can see the parts of a prokaryotic cell. So we have the fibula, cytoplasm, nucleoid or DNA, pili, capsule, cell or plasma membrane, ribosome, cell wall, and plasmid. So we will further explain that later. So first, what are the cell structure of a prokaryotic cells? Prokaryotic cells does not have true nucleus that contain their genetic material as eukaryotic cells do. Instead, prokaryotic cells have nucleoid region, which is an irregularly shaped region that contains the cell's DNA and is not surrounded by nuclear envelopes. Some other parts of prokaryotic cells are similar to those in eukaryotic cells, such as cell walls surrounding the cell, which is also found in plant cells, although it has a different composition. Like eukaryotic cells, prokaryotic cells have cytoplasm, a gel-like substance that make up the filling of the cell, and a cytoskeleton that holds components of the cell in place. Both prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells have ribosomes, which are organelles that produce proteins, and vacuoles, small spaces in cells that store nutrients and help eliminate waste. Some prokaryotic cells have flagella, which are tail-like structures that enable the organisms to move around. They may also have pili, small hair-like structures that help bacteria adhere to surfaces and allow DNA to be transferred between two prokaryotic cells in a process known as conjugation. Another part that is found in some bacteria is the capsule. The capsule is a sticky layer of carbohydrates that helps the bacterium adhere to surface in its surrounding. A prokaryotic cell is much smaller than a eukaryotic cell, though it is still much larger than a virus. So, what are the parts of a prokaryotic cells? Unlike eukaryotic cells, prokaryotic cells have no distinct organelles bound by membranes. Instead, the main reaction the cell conducts happen within the cytoplasm of the cell. In fact, there are two main components that are present within all prokaryotic cells. The first cell is a cell membrane. This is a layer of phospholipid molecules that separate the inside of the cell from the outside. While not present in all prokaryotes, many secrete a cell wall used to protect and house the cell in an extra layer of proteins and structural molecules. The second part found in all prokaryotic cells is DNA. DNA is the basic blueprint for all life form and is found within all cells. In prokaryotes, the DNA often takes the form of a large circular genome which can be found to the organized chromosome, which are typically found within eukaryotes. The large circle of DNA directs which protein the cells create and regulate the actions of the cell. Other prokaryotic cells can have large number of different parts such as cilia and flagella to help them move around. While these structures are similar in function to those within eukaryotes, they often have a different structure. This suggests that the two types of cells have undergone very different selection process and have independently evolved the structures.
Hello everyone, my name is Hannah Angelica Yvonne S. Esperto and I'm going to be talking about the characteristics of prokaryotes. So prokaryotes are one of the simplest type of cell. This is because of its size. As we all know, the prokaryotic cells are much smaller compared to eukaryotic cells. Aside from it being smaller, it is also one of the most ancient or oldest type of cell that appeared about 4 billion years ago. Prokaryotes are also the largest group of organisms. This is because prokaryotic organisms can withstand the extreme conditions of the earth. Prokaryotes are also unicellular organisms that are found all over the environment. They do not have a nuclear membrane, and they are circular in shape, genetic material dispersed throughout their cytoplasm. They do not have a membrane-bound organelles. Prokaryotes have a simple internal structures, actually. So let's talk about the examples of a prokaryotic cell. Number one example is the bacteria cell. Bacteria are single-celled organisms that are found nearly everywhere on Earth, and they are very diverse in their shapes and structures. There are about 5 times 1,030 bacteria living in many different ecosystems on Earth, including in our own bodies. In the human gut, bacteria outnumbered human cells from 10 to 1 ratio. The cell walls of some bacteria contain peptidoglycan, a molecule made of sugars and amino acids that gives the cell wall its structures and is thicker in some bacteria than others. Bacteria contain certain structures unique to them, as previously mentioned, such as the capsule, flagella, and pili. Most bacteria have just one chromosome that is circular, which can range from about 160,000 base pairs or BP to 12,200,000 BP. They also contain plasmids, which are smaller circular pieces of DNA that replicate independently of the chromosome. Some bacteria can form endospores. These are tough, dormant structures that the bacteria can reduce themselves to under starvation conditions when not enough nutrients are available. They do not need nutrients and are resistant to extreme temperatures, UV rays, and chemicals. When environmental conditions become favorable again, the endospores can reactivate. The second example is archaea cell. Archaea are similar in size and shape to bacteria, and they are also unicellular. Since bacteria and archaea are the two types of prokaryotes, this means that all prokaryotes are unicellular. Some archaea are found in extreme environments such as hot springs, but they can be found in a variety of locations, such as soil, ocean, marshlands, and inside other organisms. That includes humans. Like bacteria, archaea can have a cell wall and flagella. However, the structures of these organelles is different. For example, archaeal cell walls do not contain peptidoglycan. In addition, the flagella of archaea work the same way as those of bacteria, but they evolve from different structures. Membranes of archaea are very different than those of all other life forms. They contain different lipids, which have a different stereochemistry. Archaea usually have one circular chromosomes, as bacteria do. The archaeal chromosome can range from less than 491,000 BP to about 5,700,000 BP. They can also contain plasmids. Less is known about archaeal than bacteria. They were not classified as a separate group of prokaryotes until 1977.
Hello, my name is Therese Anestrada and I will be reporting about eukaryotic cell. A eukaryotic cell contains membrane-bound organelles such as nucleus, mitochondria, and an endoplasmic reticulum. You can see here beside is an illustration of a eukaryotic cell. Inside, you can see the nucleus, mitochondria, and endoplasmic reticulum that has two types, the smooth and the rough endoplasmic reticulum. On the other slides, we will be discussing more of the organelles that can be seen inside the eukaryotic cells. So organisms that are based on the eukaryotic cell include the protozoa, fungi, plants, and animals. These organisms are grouped into one domain, which is eukaryota. Compared to prokaryotic cells, they are grouped into the domain archaea and bacteria. So the eukaryotic cells are even more larger and more complex than the prokaryotic cells. So what is a characteristic of a eukaryotic cell? So this cell contains a variety of organelles which perform various functions within the cell. All of the organelles are stabilized and given physical support through the cytoskeleton, which is also involved in sending signals from one part of the cell to the other. So the eukaryotic cells has cytoskeleton, which is composed mainly of three filaments. These are the microtubules, microfilament, and intermediate filaments. The watery solution that surrounds all the organelles in the cells are called cytosol. So in the illustration here, you can see an example of an animal cell. You can see here the cytosol, which is the blue substance, together with the organelles. Beside the nucleus is known as the cytoplasm. So structures of eukaryotic cell. The first structure that we can see is the plasma membrane. This separates the cell from the outside environment, so it serves as a protection. It comprises embedded proteins, which helps in the exchange of substances in and out of the cell. Next is a cell wall. These are only present in the plant cell and cannot be seen in the animal cell. These are rigid in structure. Like the plasma membrane, it serves as a protective layer. It provides shape to the cell and helps in the cell-to-cell interaction. It is composed of cellulose, hemicellulose, pectins, proteins, and so on. While the ribosomes, they are known as the suicidal bags because they possess hydrolytic enzymes to digest proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, and nucleic acid. The cytoskeleton, like I mentioned, it has three types. So their main purpose is to provide shape to the cell, anchor the organelles, and stimulate the cell movement. Next is the nucleus. The nucleoplasm enclosed within the nucleus contains the DNA and proteins. Nuclear envelope consists of two layers, the outer and the inner membrane. Both of these membranes are permeable to ions, molecules, and RNA material. Ribosome productions also takes place inside the nucleus.
Hello everyone, my name is Claudine Ganados and this is the continuation of structures of eukaryotic cell. We also have endoplasmic reticulum. It is a network of small tubular structures that divides the cell surface into two parts, the luminal and extraluminal. Endoplasmic reticulum has two types, the rough endoplasmic reticulum that contains ribosomes and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum that lacks ribosomes and is therefore smooth. Next is the lysosomes. They are known as suicidal bags because they possess hydrolytic enzymes to digest protein, lipids, carbohydrates, and nucleic acids. Next is the plastids. These are double membrane structures and are found only in plant cells. These are of three types. The chloroplast that contain chlorophyll and is involved in photosynthesis. Next is the chromoplast that contains a pigment called keratin that provides the plants yellow, red, or orange colors. Leucoplasts that are colorless and store oil, fats, carbohydrates, or proteins. We also have the mitochondria. These are also known as powerhouse of cells because they produce energy. It consists of an outer membrane and an inner membrane. The inner membrane is divided into folds called cristae. They help in the regulation of cell metabolism. Next is the Golgi apparatus. It is made up of flat disc-shaped structures called cisternae. It is absent in red blood cells of humans and sieve cells of plants. They are arranged parallel and concentrically near the nucleus. It is an important site for formation of glycoproteins and glycolipids. An example of eukaryotic cell. Eukaryotic cells are exclusively found in plants, animals, fungi, protozoa, and other complex organisms. The examples of eukaryotic cells are mentioned below. First is the plant cells. The cell wall is made up of cellulose, which provides support to the plant. It has a large vacuole which contains the turgor pressure. The plant cell contains chloroplast, which aids in the process of photosynthesis. Second is the animal cells. These do not have cell walls. Instead, they have a cell membrane. That is why animals have varied shapes. They have the ability to perform phagocytosis and phagocytosis. Third is the fungal cell. The cell wall is made of chitin. Some fungi have holes known as septa, which allow the organelles and cytoplasm to pass through them. Fourth is the protozoa. Protozoans are unicellular organisms. Some protozoa have cilia for locomotion, or a thin layer called pellicle provides supports to the cell.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julie Jane P. Mendoza. So today, I will be talking about the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. So, the difference between eukaryotic and prokaryotic cell is that, as we can see in the first picture, the table 1.3, in nucleus, the prokaryotes or prokaryotic has no definite nucleus, DNA present but separate from rest of cell, while in the eukaryotes or eukaryotic, the nucleus is present. In the organelle cell membrane, eukaryotes and prokaryotes both have a cell membrane. In mitochondria, the prokaryotes, there has non-enzymes for oxidation reactions located on plasma membrane, while in the eukaryotes is present. In the endoplasmic reticulum, there is none in the prokaryotes but present in eukaryotes. In ribosomes, both cell has a present ribosomes. And lastly, in the chloroplast, in prokaryotes, there is none. Photosynthesis localized in chromatophores, while in the eukaryotes has present in green plants. In the second picture, we can see the size, genetic material, organelles, cell walls, and ribosomes. In this size, the prokaryote or prokaryotic has small about 0.5 micrometers, while in the eukaryote or eukaryotic has up to 40 micrometers. In genetic material, in prokaryote, the circular DNA in cytoplasm or nucleus region, while in the eukaryote has DNA in form of linear chromosomes in nucleus. In the organelles in prokaryote, there are only few are present, while in the eukaryote, many organelles are present. In cell walls, prokaryote, rigid form from glycoproteins, mainly in murine, while in the eukaryote, there are fungi, plant, and animals no cell wall. And in the ribosomes, the prokaryote has 70S, while in the eukaryote has 80S. It means that all prokaryotes have 70S, whereas it is means as Schwarzschild units, while eukaryotes contain larger 80S or Schwarzschild units.
And that's all our report is gonna be for today. Thank you very much for listening. Once again, this is John Mark S. Saligani.
This is Hannah Angelica Yvonne S. Espirito.
This is Therese Anastrada.
This is Claudine Ganados.
This is Julie Jane P. Mendoza.
And we are wishing you a very good day. Thank you.